Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to have you. We are going to get started here in just one more minute. So as some people start to come in, I hope you've had a great Florida Climate Week already. Today is the first day of a really impactful week to learn so much information about our environment and about how we can take action. Uh, Earth Day is also this week, so that's something to look forward to. I'm sure there's a lot of events where you are at, just like there are here in Orlando. In Orlando, we have an Earth Day social, so if you're interested in that, you can check out our Ideas for Us Orlando Facebook group, and we would love to have you in person come out and meet us in a COVID-safe way. So welcome everybody. I think we have our group for today. If we have more people join us, we will just keep adding them. Thank you, Kristen, for helping with that. If you're new to the chat, my name is Caroline. I am from Fridays for Future Orlando. We also have Kristen Anderson and Christy Folk also as our presenters for today. Kristen just linked the Earth Day social event. If you are in Orlando, if you want to come out and meet us in person in a COVID-safe way, you're welcome to do that. And we're going to get started with the presentation. So you can raise your hand either physically or through the raise your hand button I think you have on your Zoom. If we need to have some engagement, also use the chat box, please. And let's get started. I think most of us are here on Zoom together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And from now on, Kristen, if you can manage the Zoom, since I won't be able to see that. Yay, well, welcome everybody to the Youth Climate Activist Town Hall, part of Volo Foundation's Florida Climate Week. We are so honored to be here on behalf of the Volo Foundation and the Fridays for Future Orlando group. And we have a really great presentation in store for you today. So thank you if you are coming from your own youth climate activist group or as an individual. We love to hear your voices. We love to hear what you're working on. And we just thought that this would be a really great idea to connect with all the groups throughout Florida. Sometimes we find ourselves doing similar things throughout the state. So wouldn't it be great if we can kind of get connected and have some information that is Florida-wide, so then we can join forces together to have more impact here in Florida. The agenda today, we're going to have some introductions because everyone is an individual and special in their own ways. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to talk about what Fridays for Future Orlando is, what our experience has been really quick. And then we'll get into some climate education updates for Florida, thanks to Christy Folk, who is trained professionally through the Climate Reality Project. We're going to have some engaging or organizing ideas, resources, and tips. Anything you want to know about putting on these kinds of events or how to do it or what, we're going to dive into all of that, as well as at the end, a Q&A / discussion / updates from your local group. So we want to hear, do you have any events going on? Do you want us to help us amplify anything? Or are you looking for a group to get started with? So we're going to get into all of that just here in a second. So first, what we're going to do, we have kind of a small group. So I would say if we wanted to, please put your email in the chat so then we have that. But if you wanted to either introduce yourself via chat through the example I gave you at the bottom, or if you wanted to come on camera and have you use your voice to basically say your name, your pronouns, your Indigenous land recognition, title and organization, and email. Don't feel nervous about the Indigenous land recognition. If you don't know how to pronounce one of these, that's okay. It's just honoring that we are on Indigenous land, right? We're on land that has historically been from these tribes, so we just want to honor them. Some of the names are Timucua, Seminole, A's, Miami, Big Cypress Reservation, Tequesta, Metacumbe, and Gurungumbe. So it's okay. I think even your effort is great. So if you wanted to put that in the chat, please put that in the chat right now. Or if you want to come on camera and say it, we welcome you to come on camera right now and to share your voice. Awesome. So if you want to add that in the chat, that's great, especially the email, so then we can stay connected. And if you wanted to share your voice and just say it on Zoom with us, that is great too. So we'll give just one more minute for that.
Hey, Caroline, I'll go ahead and introduce myself.
Yes, please.
So, hi, everyone. I'm Christy. I'm one of our speakers for today, and my pronouns are she and they, and I'm living on traditional Seminole land. And I'm also an organizer with Fridays for Future Orlando, and I'm excited for everyone to be here.
I can go next. My name is Luciana. I use she, her pronouns. I Googled it earlier and it said that I was on Cherokee land, but on this map it says that I'm on Timucua land.
Okay.
So we're just going to say both. And then I'm part of Our Climate. I'm a fields representative. My email, I don't have a professional email on it yet. I really need to do that, but I'll drop my regular
in the
email.
chat.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And hi, Sean. How are you doing?
Hey, long time no see.
Yeah.
I'm Sean Barry Whedon, he, him. I am in Tampa, so I am on Seminole land, it looks like. I am a sustainability consultant with Real Building Consultants, and I am a volunteer with the U.S. Green Building Council, the Tampa Bay branch. Not really doing too much youth engagement right now, but very interested in it. Obviously, the youth are our future. It's a big way to impact climate is to get them early, indoctrinate them in all that we're doing. And I'm really interested in youth engagement in terms of urban agriculture. So just here to learn. Good to see everyone.
Great. And welcome, Casey, too. I see you on camera. Hi. And Jeffrey as well. Casey?
Hello, everyone. My name is Casey Prieto. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. In terms of Indigenous land recognition with this map, I am also on Seminole. Title organization, I'm the UCF branch manager for Ideas for Us, and I will drop my professional email below if anybody would love to collaborate and essentially help push green initiatives either on campus or in the Orlando area.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And if anybody else wants to share, we would love to hear from you. We'll just give a little pause for that. And then
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Anderson. Pronouns are she, hers, living on Seminole land traditionally. And I'm the branch manager of Ideas for Us. And I'll put my email in the chat as well. But yeah, everybody please put your email in the chat just so that we can stay connected. We're not going to sabotage you with emails. It's just more of monthly updates so that we can all work together consistently. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Dorian, old guy from CCL. Thanks for letting me be on here. Fun fact from an old Floridian, the Seminoles are not a native tribe in Florida. They came here in the 1800s, or they evolved in the 1800s. So we have the Tequesta, the Calusa, and a couple of odd tribes. I just put a name of one in the Tampa chapter. But glad to be here, and I do have an event coming up we can talk about.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for coming to the session. Zach, did you want to share?
Yeah, my name is Zach Newton. I co-founded my own educational organization called Eco Earth Friends. This coming weekend on Saturday, I'll be working with Rights of Nature on a conference with the new Mark Ruffalo film, Invisible Hand. So if you guys are interested in learning about Rights of Nature, I'll put the information in the chat and you guys can check it out and hopefully join.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Zach, you should really check out his organization, Eco Earth Friends, a really active youth climate activist in Florida. So thanks for coming. Awesome. And anybody else, if you want to come on camera, we'd love to see you. If not, we will move on. Awesome. Okay, so we are here with Fridays for Future Orlando. We are a branch, I guess you could say, of the global Fridays for Future group. Just a little bit about us. So Fridays for Future was started by Swedish 16-year-old Greta Thunberg. The movement has sparked students in 150 different countries to strike weekly, organizing by the tens, hundreds, and even thousands to stand up to local leaders and demand action to mitigate climate change. On September 20th, more than 4 million people worldwide participated in the global climate Fridays for Future strikes. Fridays for Future Orlando was started in about 2018. We started with just some local activists that had a group of 3 people that were protesting at City Hall. And over the course of the next couple years, we grew that from 3 to 10 to 30 and then to over 300 at the September 20th event that we had, I believe, in 2019. So it really grew over time. And through that, we've done climate strikes. We've advocated for environmental bills. We've advocated for water conservation and quality. We foresee the water crisis as something that Floridians should really get to know about, the issues involved with that. And even advocating for 100% clean and renewable energy by 2030. And this is what our group looks like. We are a group of a lot of different ages and backgrounds that come together to basically make our voices heard. We want to do things in person as much as possible now that we are, moving into a more safer COVID environment. And we want to connect with local leaders and push forward actions as much as possible throughout the year. So we're going to get into a little bit of climate crisis education, just so then we're all on the same base of knowledge. Christy Folk is an amazing activist in the Central Florida community, having worked with a number of different farming, composting, climate education groups, science centers, you name it. She is a wealth of knowledge and has been formally trained by the Climate Reality Project. So I will pass it on to Christy, and Christy will start to share our presentation about climate change in Florida.
Awesome, thanks, Caroline. So just to do a quick crash course of climate change. So we have solar radiation that comes from the sun that goes through our atmosphere. That's what heats our Earth. And many of these light waves are reflected back from the Earth after the Earth absorbs some of them. And many of them go into space. But what we're doing right now with greenhouse gases is increasing the density of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. And what that does is basically puts a blanket around the Earth and traps that heat, which is in consequence heating our Earth more than it should be heated. And so when we trap that heat in our atmosphere, what it does is basically increase the energy content of our climate system. And so carbon dioxide is the greatest greenhouse gas in terms of the most. There are also other greenhouse gases, including methane, water vapor, etc. And we are putting 152 million tons into the atmosphere every single day. So we're basically treating the atmosphere like an open sewer for our greenhouse gas emissions, which is really not good for escalating global warming. And so you may ask, what are the sources of these greenhouse gas emissions? And as you can see in this little animatic, they include things like factory farming, land transport, landfills, industrial processes, thawing permafrost, and of course, things like coal, oil, and gas, which are fossil fuels, which brings us to next slide. So in 2018, carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuels made up 75% of all of the US greenhouse gas emissions. So obviously this is an area of focus for us as climate activists. So in order to reduce the effects of the climate crisis caused by these greenhouse gas emissions, we need to reduce our usage of fossil fuels and eventually stop using fossil fuels altogether. And so we are feeling a variety of impacts from the climate in Florida as a frontline state. And so some of these impacts include extreme heat, and that leads to more wildfires, more extreme weather events, sea level rise and saltwater intrusion, and coastal flooding and climate migration, ocean heating and acidification, air and water pollution. And there's also a lack of energy efficiency standards in Florida, as well as a continued reliance on fossil fuels. So I'm going to talk more about these impacts in the next few slides. So when we are trapping this extra energy, this extra heat in our climate system, that leads to more fires. So that extra energy is the same energy that is making our water evaporate and creating droughts, but also creating greater weather patterns, so heavier rainfall events, things like that. And so when you have dry conditions, when the water evaporates, you typically have more wildfires, as we've seen, not just in Florida, but in Australia, California in the past few years. In addition, we have this lovely thing that covers most of our Earth, and that is water. And water is super great because it has a high heat capacity. So it actually absorbs 93% of that extra heat pollution that we are generating in our atmosphere, which is good for us, but terrible for the ocean. Because once that ocean heats up, it affects all of the ecosystems in the ocean, and it makes it less resilient to absorbing more heat. And so, for example, when we heat up the ocean, setting records, that warmer air and that warmer water expands, and of course leads to sea level rise, but the warmer air can hold more water vapor. And so as a consequence, with every degree of warming, 7%, the capacity of the atmosphere to hold water vapor increases by 7%, which means we've got greater rainfall events, more intense hurricanes, things like that. And there's already 5% more water vapor over the oceans than there was only 30 years ago. And so what does this extreme weather actually do? It threatens our infrastructure. So it puts all of these different types of infrastructure at risk, especially on the coast, of which we have a lot in Florida. And so this leads to one of the impacts that Florida faces, and that is migration. So 24 million people were displaced by extreme weather in 2019, which is 3 times more than conflict. And in addition to that, the estimates are that the world could see up to 1 billion climate migrants, or people who are forced to move to higher land, for example, because of sea level rise, or people who have been displaced by flooding or adverse weather events. So this is a big issue, especially in Florida, because we're going to start to see people in Miami moving inland and moving to places like Orlando. And so this is something that our leaders need to keep in consideration for planning for city planning and things like that. And so this is a photo from Miami Beach in 2016 of a parking garage that was flooded. And so not only does the ocean absorb heat, it also absorbs carbon dioxide, much of the carbon dioxide that we're emitting. And that leads to ocean acidification. And so when the ocean is more acidic, it threatens things like coral reef ecosystems, because they are only adapted to survive in a certain pH and temperature range. So this heat and acid pollution leads to basically the collapse of coral reef ecosystems. And this is a huge issue, considering so many people in the world depend upon the oceans for their livelihoods and for the source of protein. And so in addition, populations of marine vertebrates have declined by almost half in the past 40 or 50 years. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk more about air pollution now that we've talked about water pollution. And so fracking, which is hydraulic fracturing, which is the process to get natural gas, so-called natural gas, has been used by corporations, the fossil fuel industry, and now governments. It has been suggested as a bridge fuel for a few years, as a way to transition from coal, which is supposedly less polluting, and it's supposedly less polluting than coal because it doesn't release as many emissions per unit burned. However, fracking has led to water, air pollution, and earthquakes, and is really detrimental to the local environment as well as the global environment because it is still a fossil fuel and it still releases emissions. However, instead of carbon dioxide, it's methane. And so methane leakage has been found to be 60% higher than what the EPA has documented. And the problem with methane is that the CH4 molecule, which is methane, is 86 times more potent than carbon dioxide in a shorter time period. So CO2, carbon dioxide, lasts for 100 years or so in the atmosphere and does damage that whole time by trapping heat, whereas methane may only have a 10 or 20-year lifespan in the atmosphere, but it traps a lot more heat. It's a lot better at trapping heat. And the problem is also that carbon dioxide, when it reaches the end of its life, can turn into methane. And so although carbon dioxide is the majority of the greenhouse gas emissions that we release, methane is a huge issue. And so this idea of transitioning to natural gas from other fossil fuels like gas and oil is not a solution. And that is what OUC, Orlando Utilities Commission, has proposed for 2050 and beyond. And so this is one of the campaigns that we're working on. So something that brings me hope, one of the solutions, of course, in this fight against fossil fuels is that we have the solutions at hand. We know what they are, and it's a matter of doing them. It's a matter of transitioning off of fossil fuels, keeping fossil fuels in the ground, not burning them, and transitioning to these renewable energy sources that we know are clean and sustainable. And we just need to work on scaling them and really taking advantage of the economic opportunities, because at this point they're reaching grid parity, which means that they are just as cheap as fossil fuels. However, fossil fuels are subsidized at a much, much higher rate. And so we need to move the money. We need to invest in the types of energy that actually matter and are actually going to secure a safe planet for us in the future. And so this is my favorite statistic that I'll end on, is that enough solar energy reaches Earth every hour from the sun to fill the entire energy world, or the world's energy needs for an entire year. So it's a matter of harnessing, storing, and securing this renewable energy. And that is kind of a crash course overview of the climate crisis and what we're focused on.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. And if you have any questions about any of that, please add it to the chat, or you can talk about it with us later at the end of the presentation. Really, for solar energy, you would think that that's like the #1 energy that we use here in Florida, and it is by far not. So there's so much work that we still have to do in this beautiful state of Florida, and so much more that we have to influence too as youth climate activists to push forward more sustainable and environmentally friendly policies and ways to run our beautiful state. So we're going to start getting into more of like the resources and helpful things for you as a youth climate activist to be abreast to. So one of the first things is knowing your political figures. So knowing your US Senator, your Florida Governor, we have Rick Scott and Marco Rubio and Ron DeSantis. Also things that you can look more information into is your city commissioners, your county commissioners, your city mayor, county mayor, US House representative. These are different figures that have different decision-making powers, right? And a really great resource that we found for this is myreps.datamade.us. They have a whole index where you can go in and type in your address and it will bring all that information to you. So if you're ever trying to push forward for an environmental thing in your area, you have all the contacts of everyone that you would need. And there's certain ones that you can call more consistently for environmental bills, such as your senator, your governor, and your US House representative. So this information is super helpful. Something else that someone who might be a supporter to you and anything that you're trying to do is the director of sustainability, whether that's for the city or the county. Chances are they're going to be on your team when it comes to pushing forward sustainability. I know that Chris Castro for the city of Orlando has been amazing, as well as Jeff Benavides with Orange County. So they are your friends. They're here to help you because we all have the same goals generally in mind. The next thing is just an overview of like what the big climate activist groups are doing right now. So Fridays for Future, the global group, has a lot going on. You can look at fridaysforfuture.org. They have the No More Empty Summits campaign. They have an Earth Day event and their own summit that they're leading. They have SOS Amazonia with Fridays for Future Brazil, the Clean Standard Chartered, which is fighting the abuse of finance over funding fossil fuel industries, Withdraw the Cap with the EU Common Agricultural Policy, and The World is Watching, just a general ongoing campaign that they have. And it's cool to see these big groups do the campaigns because it kind of gives us ideas as these smaller groups of how to push forward through the media these different things that we're trying to get accomplished. And also Global Climate Strike, formerly known as Youth Climate Strike, is still focused on the just recovery as a response to COVID. And you can post your strike online. We're going to share more information about that, but sign up for their newsletters. Really helpful information for staying on top of what's going on. And also in Florida, we have so many amazing groups that have newsletters and social media and their own campaigns that are Florida specific. So this is to our hometown here. And these groups like Sierra Club Florida, Rethink Energy Florida, Central Florida Climate Action, Solar United Neighbors, Jobs for Justice, the Clean Air Institute, Ideas for Us, Zero Hour Florida, Climate Reality Project 350.org, and more. If you have more, please list them as well. I know the Citizens Climate Lobby, which Jeff on the call is from, also is a wealth of knowledge. So these groups, what I love about them is that they have ongoing newsletters that say, hey, take action, and they'll list out easy to read directions of what to do. So if you're looking for kind of guidance on like, what do I push forward, what's going on in Florida, screenshot this and follow all of these different groups. They're really great for knowing what's going on. So I'll give you a second for that. Awesome, and then we'll move on. So we're going to get into the organizing ideas, resources, and tips. So with Fridays for Future Orlando, we really focus on climate strikes, and I just wanted to give an overview of what that looks like. So we would meet at City Hall. It was on a corner of a four-way stop, right? And we would have our recycled signs. We'd push our signs to the street, so then we could show the public that crosses in this section pretty frequently around lunchtime, to show them that we are here and we're trying to stand for something, and this is what we care about. All of our signs were very pointed on what we wanted to get across. We wanted to declare climate emergency. We wanted 100% clean and renewable energy. We wanted solar energy in the Sunshine State, etc. So some of the more creative signs are great, just a beautiful art, but we wanted to make sure that they're specific as well. We had organized speakers for all of our climate strikes. So whether that was youth climate activists or politicians that were fighting for the same things like Anna Eskamani, or other groups, nonprofit leaders, to come and share their voice to kind of get us more information and more educated on what's going on. Then we would march. We either marched to Lake Eola, or the last one, we marched to the Orange County building, because we were trying to push forward a climate declaration for Orange County. And then after this event, through our sign-up sheets and through our Eventbrite, we would send out newsletters and we would keep people engaged on our Facebook and our Instagram. So that's what our experience was. We're excited to hear your experience if you want to share anything at the end of the call, of the session, I mean. We also advocated for environmental bills, and what that can look like is researching House and Senate bills. They're different, that are environmentally focused, maybe something to do with renewable energy or environmental justice or anything that you really care about. Sometimes finding your US House representative can be a good opportunity for you to learn more about what's going on, and also finding your other different politicians and asking questions to local groups to see, hey, what environmental bills are going on right now that I should know about? So those are all resources. Also educating your community, whether it's on social media, and simplifying. How do we simplify, all these different bills that are going on so people actually know what we're talking about? And so I think that was a really great example of what we did with a House bill with Anna Eskamani, is that she basically helped us to simplify it so then we could share that with the public as an education on what's going on with renewable energy in Florida we were fighting for. And spreading the word, calling, scheduling meetings with decision makers, that is a big one that I think we'll start to see more and more of, is scheduling meetings, whether it's virtual or in person, to talk with our decision makers. That might be our city or county commissioners. It might be other politicians listed on the slide above the previous. So then we make our voices heard. Also, phone banking is amazing, and we'll get to that next. So I'm going to give this slide to Kristen to share about Eco Action Projects.
Yeah, so as you all know, advocacy is absolutely essential, getting our voices heard to our leaders and making sure that the world understands that this is a crisis that needs to be addressed now. But another great way to address this is actually doing action projects. So working with local groups to identify a need in the community and implementing a solution. And that can sound really complicated, but in reality, it's as easy as finding a place with trash and working with a couple of groups to cleaning it up. And it can be free or it can be very low budget. And here are just a couple of examples of some projects that you can do in your community. We really encourage working with various groups to make this happen. We're going to go into a deep dive on how to do this tomorrow in our session that I linked in the chat. But educational events are essential because you cannot solve a problem without understanding it. So, with free educational events, shoreline cleanups are usually free unless you want to add some supplies, or you can do an upcycling workshop, which include upcycling and pollinator bomb workshops, includes education and action, to where, for example, with pollinator bombs, you're educating people on native pollinator plants, the need for it, and giving everybody the tools to implement that in your own lives. And this is so important now more than ever. We need a space for the community to come together to do this. And we do it a lot with Fridays for Future and with Ideas for Us. And we want to do this more with other local groups like yours. So if you're interested in co-hosting an event with us, please reach out to me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. I would love to make some of these projects, for example, happen with you. But yeah, please come out to our event tomorrow, and we're going to have a deep dive on how to do this in your community, no matter where you are, and an opportunity for how to find funding.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, this is another way that you can really engage your community. So whether it's climate strikes or advocating for environmental bills or doing eco action projects, there's a lot that we can get done, as well as online events. And we saw this as a response to COVID. And really, we got a lot done during COVID, during doing things online. So some examples of that are leading Facebook Live conversations with local leaders, environmental groups, politicians, also youth climate activist panels. All of this is something that Ideas for Us has led, which is one of the our organizations that we work with. And really, it's been amazing to have these conversations in the public, because prior, you would have to physically go to the meeting to have a part in the conversation. And now having it online, it can really start it with more people in a more accessible way. The next thing is phone banking with online Zoom parties. So sometimes when we are pushing for an environmental bill, the biggest thing that we can do is we can be calling our politicians. So what you could do is schedule a Zoom meeting. It could be a closed meeting where you can give examples of what it's like to actually call your decision maker or your politician in your area, and then go on mute, and you can just call as many people as possible, sharing your experiences of what they said on the phone and things like that, sharing your script, and really you can get a big list done all at once. And the next thing is voter registration online campaigns. When we are, in a time where we can vote for our decision makers, it's really important to be pushing this forward, whether it's on social media or conversations on Facebook or YouTube or anything like that. And any other ideas that you have, we would love to hear it maybe in the end of the presentation when we're going to have more of a discussion. Verbiage and communication. So I think that sometimes we have different roles within our organization. Sometimes people like to be the one speaking. Sometimes they get a little bit nervous because you might not want someone to call you out for not knowing everything. But here's just some information to make you more confident about being able to speak on the topics that you're sharing information about. Just making sure to fully introduce yourself in your group, making sure to speak on the issues, do some research, have some statistics on hand so that you can fall back on that if someone asks you a question. It's always okay to say that you don't know too. Speak from personal experience. What does the forest mean to you? What does clean water mean to you? What does having a clean air mean to you? Your voice does really matter, especially being a youth climate activist. and being educated on the climate crisis. So from whatever Christy shared earlier from Climate Reality, or maybe you have another resource that you really like online that has information on that. Just having it on hand can make you feel more confident too. And advocating on social media. Email newsletters are great. We use them a lot with Fridays for Future Orlando. So having sign-up sheets at your events is a good idea to stay connected so you don't lose anybody that comes out to your events. Where to post your climate strike events. So you can post it on these are the three big ones. So Strike With Us, Global Climate Strike, and Action Network. All of these are the ones where you're going to be putting your events on. As well, for every event that Fridays for Future hosts, we put it on Facebook as an event because that's usually more accessible for people to see what's going on. And also, if you wanted to be able to gauge attendance and save emails, you would want to direct them from your Facebook event to the Eventbrite. So maybe something like a post-COVID waste cleanup on a shoreline. We wanted to kind of control the numbers of that event. So we would put it through Eventbrite so then we could have signups and say, oh, we're capped. Because on Facebook, you never really know who is really coming to your events, right? The next thing is marketing. So nowadays there's so much. I tip my hat to anybody who understands TikTok. I've never been on it. I don't understand it. But if you do, I know that a very prominent youth climate activist in the Central Florida community, Lorena Sosa, knows how to use TikTok, and she's promoted environmental events through it. And it's really cool. It's like a video editing kind of app, I guess I would call it. But also Facebook is big. Instagram is big. Instagram stories even to show the video of what's going on. Paper flyers, you could post this around your school, contacting local press, which we will get into a little bit more about how to do that. Emails and calls are all really amazing. And one thing that we use a lot for promoting and graphic design is Canva. Canva has a free option. You can see down here in the corner, this is kind of what the setup looks like, but they have templates for everything. So even for this session, how we made this beautiful graphic that has the date, the time, the event title, a subject line, and even our logos of our partners and our beautiful team. This was all created in Canva. So really easy to use. It also can have templates for Instagram and Facebook posts, Insta stories. The list goes on and on. It can just make it more professional. They even have like little people that you'll see on one of the next slides where they're holding signs up. So you could write something on their slides. There are a lot of really fun graphics from Canva exist. The next thing is creating a press release and connecting to media. So say you have an event coming up, you want to do a climate strike. How do I get the news to come out? What do I do? So something that a lot of people do is they create a press release. There's templates online. So if you don't know how to do it, it kind of shows you exactly where things should go. So you can make it in a Google document or a Word document and set it up in this format. It'll tell you city, state, company, individual. Here's where you put this information, details about the event, etc. So it's kind of like a drag and drop. Once you have that document, you can send it to press. So a group like the one that I work for, Ideas for Us, we have a community calendar and a spreadsheet that has all the press in our area. So you can connect with a local nonprofit in your area to gain access to that contact list. So you could easily send out your press release of the event that you're trying to really promote. And that's a way that the media can get a hold of what's going on. Also through social media, you can tag them at WESH2 News or at whatever, and maybe they'll find it through that too. It's really important to name, in your email, to have a professional email with your name, group, etc., and 2 to 3 photos so they can use that in promotions, and even a couple sentences about who your group is, so then they can kind of conceptualize it right away. And so this is really helpful for connecting to the media. Also stay connected to us. We are going to be on, we have a Facebook group called the Climate Action Network. It is with Ideas for Us. It says the Ideas Hive right here, but this is a space where you can post your events and share it with tons of different people around Florida. So you can screenshot that if you like to. We can share more information about that. And we have a Facebook, Instagram, and a website. So if you want to follow Fridays for Future Orlando specifically on any of that, you can definitely do that. So now we're going to move into the next part of our session, which is just talking with you all, right? Instead of just having it as kind of like an environmental lecture. We wanted to talk to you, hear from you. What do you have going on in your area? What are some things that you like about your group that you're interested in? Or even what's your concerns about Florida? So I'm just going to read this really quick. So working with other groups creates synergy in the movement and makes everyone stronger. We hope to find like-minded groups to work together for these different activities. So what that means is that, say that the Clio Institute, for instance, they were leading the climate declaration. They had an amazing website, easy to use for you to contact your lawmakers about declaring a climate emergency in your area. Well, if other groups are doing the same exact thing, it's not as strong as if we do it all together. So really connecting with the groups in your area can really amplify what you're trying to do. So connecting with groups maybe through this link, through the Climate Action Network, is a good idea. Or even in the slides prior, all those different environmental groups just reaching out and saying, hey, I really care about renewable energy. What can me and my group do about it? So keeping those conversations flowing. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get into a session where you can share your voice on what's going on in your area, what you're concerned about in the state of Florida, any questions that you have, or if you want to share any upcoming events. So yeah, we are going to open it up to you all, and we'll kind of popcorn around. So if you want to come on camera and if you want to say something, please do. We would love to see you and to hear from you as well. And Zach, could you start us off with just sharing your event again to refresh us on what you're working on?
Sure, Caroline. So this Saturday, as I mentioned, we have an event with the Rights of Nature producing team. So, the Invisible Hand producing team. So they do a lot of work with Rights of Nature, promoting Rights of Nature. And I will be speaking in my own breakout session about how to get started with Rights of Nature in their Who Speaks for Nature conference coming up. I mean, I don't really know what else to add to that, except that they were the team that's actually doing this conference. What were the director and producer on the most recent Mark Ruffalo film. If any of you guys don't know who that is, I'm sure you all do, but he plays the Hulk in the Avengers movies. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in getting involved with Rights of Nature, I would definitely attend, and I will pass it back to Caroline.
Awesome, thank you. And Rights to Nature is really started with the idea that I think specifically waterways should have their own set of rights, right? Is that what it is, Zach?
Yeah, not only just waterways, but all nature, trees, plots of land, reservations, things like that. Those big corporate companies want to come through. They want to put like pipelines in natural untouched ground. They want to build buildings on like over our untouched forest, our organic forest. We want to keep that way, and obviously that's not good. And what Rights of Nature is trying to do, and has done in some places, is give nature, trees, waterways, as you mentioned, other natural things, the rights that humans have. So like you wouldn't come and cut off a person's limb, right? That's illegal. So they're trying to give trees rights that you can't come and cut them down.
Love that. And we see that as an example with Jenny Springs, if you're aware of what's going on, right? So Jenny Springs has had different companies that have been able to take water from the springs, but the Nestle company that is known for their chocolate, their coffee, and also bottled water, they're having to have a permit that would take, I think, up to 1 million gallons of water from this waterway a day. And so Rights to Clean Nature would say, well, you can't take that because that is of the state of Florida, right? That's for our people and for our planet. You can't just come in and take the water and sell it elsewhere, right? And you can't really take too much from this area, because what happens to the environment after? It might dry up. It might have different environmental consequences. So that goes along with the Rights to Nature. And thank you so much, Zach, for working on that and everything. Does anybody else want to share any information about events that you have going on, or your group, or what you're concerned about for the state of Florida? Jeffrey, you can go ahead. So you need to come off mute and then we can hear you.
I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. It's a very easy link. It's a Citizens Climate Lobby link. You talked about calling your congressman or your representative, the city council members and that type of thing. I think it's very important. I heard one guy say recently that if you know who your congressperson is, you're doing good. If your congressperson knows who you are, then you're doing excellent. So this is what we want to encourage at Citizens Climate Lobby is to speak regularly with our congresspeople. And to that end, there's a new app. It's all called our monthly calling campaign. It takes 5 minutes a month. Anybody can sign up for it. You don't have to be a Citizens Climate Lobby member. Just go on the link that's in the chat and sign up. It will send you a reminder. What day is your day to call your congressman and Florida senators? When you call a congressman, they will give you a suggested script, or you can say whatever you want. You want action on climate, whatever you want, climate emergency, it's up to you. But the idea is, with this app, we get a steady drumbeat of people calling Congress because the days are staggered when people will call. So that way they'll get calls every day. So please give it a try. 5 minutes a month.
Thank you. We will also share that in the Fridays for Future Orlando Facebook page. And maybe we'll do a phone banking. Maybe that we'll do an event that we talked about earlier in the presentation to help amplify that. So that's a really great idea. And thank you, Jeffrey, for sharing that from Citizens Climate Lobby, a really important group.
Well, thanks for allowing me on.
Yeah, totally. And anybody else, if you want to come on camera and say, or just your voice even, to say anything about any questions that you have or any events that you have going on in your area, what you're concerned about for Florida, feel free to do that. We're going to give the next couple minutes to do so.
Well, on behalf of Ideas UCF in Orlando, I would like to say some things, Caroline.
Yeah, totally.
So actually, this Thursday coming up, for those who are not aware, it is Earth Day. We are having a wonderful Earth Day social at A La Carte Orlando. It's a great way to give back to our community. Going to be a lot of local food vendors, as well as they have an open pavilion type green space with different types of beers on tap. In addition to the following Tuesday on April 27th, we're going to be having a DIY sustainable product workshop. Essentially, we're going to be making candles, different types of body scrubs, personal care, as well as household products. We just do recommend that you go ahead and bring your waste-free containers to do our best to minimize anything that we can, as well as a $5 donation, just because at the end of the day, this is an event we're trying to give back to the community and encourage sustainable initiatives. And also my favorite, Central Florida Earth Day is on Sunday, April 25th. I believe that Volo and Ideas for Us are actually partners on that event as well. So I do encourage anybody and everybody to come out and have a great time, support local businesses, and essentially help celebrate how great our planet is. So thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Anybody else want to share anything? No worries. Thank you so much for coming today. We are really excited to be able to talk to you all about climate crisis education, organizing tips and tricks. Hopefully we can all stay together, connected. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Yay. Thank you all, and we will see you at the next session. Hopefully tomorrow, we'll see you at the Eco Action organizing session so you can learn about how to do that and apply for funding. So we will talk to you then. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Carol.
Bye.